Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that phrase even means. I'm Kane, and joining me today are two jerks, Ryan and Matthew. And I say jerks because today we're going to discuss fallings out and avoiding fallings out with people, be it mates, be it spouses, some of those things where you just have a disagreement or a difference of opinion and, a friendship or a relationship just splinters like a four-fingered Kit Kat being split in two or into four. Now, gents, how are you both first?
I think I want a Kit Kat now. No, doing well here. Unfortunately, very, very busy work-wise, but it's sort of a rush to the end of the year. I was hoping that it would quiet down, but I think it'll just be a bit of a sprint. But yeah, can't complain at all.
Matthew, what about your good self? You were complaining earlier about the heat in Brisbane, heaven forbid.
Whilst you might not think 24 up here is very hot, Kane, this house that I'm living in just is an oven. So it takes a good week for it to cool down. But apart from that, happy days up here, yeah.
Now, onto the topic at hand, which is about, fallings out or avoiding fallings out. And what kind of prompted this is people going away on boys' weekends and then not having to, patch things up is not the right word, but, having to then pitch in. So, people who are otherwise stressed from having a few kids for a whole weekend get a little bit of time off. So, gents, have either of you, be it with, probably want to talk about current spouses, but spouses or even mates had fallings out which you've patched up or not patched up, or how do you avoid conflict?
Well, I think that first reference there was towards me, so I'll go first on this one. Mine was more about, I guess, avoiding conflict. So before I was away for the whole weekend, which meant the wife had the 3 kids all weekend. Had to take them to various activities across the weekend, so it was quite taxing. And I just got a little bit of a message on the Sunday morning, and I sort of read between the lines a bit that, it might have been taking its toll on her. So coming home Sunday afternoon, I just sort of threw the luggage in the corner of the room and just straight away said, look, do you want to jump out, go out for a few hours, get away from it all? And because it was 35 outside, she was just happy to stay inside with the aircon. But yeah, there was just a bit of tension when I got home, not so much towards me, but just inside the house. So, to avoid it getting any hotter in there, I've sort of tried to, let her do what she wanted to do. And then I even had to postpone the podcast from Sunday night just so I could put the kids to bed. She'd been doing it the last 3 nights. So, and those little things there, just seem to make the next few days a bit easier.
Kids make a big difference to that sort of thing as well. Just trying to cope by yourself with 1, 2, 3, if you have 15 kids, that'd be significantly worse than 1 kid. But just trying to cope with just kids on your own for a period of time across bedtimes, food time, a little bit of downtime. There's no break. Kids kind of wake up at 7-ish and go to bed at 7-ish. And between then, if they're not sneaking a nap, it is literally 12 hours of just trying to keep a kid entertained, fed, not throwing too many temper tantrums. So yeah, I completely understand that. And there's been times when I've come back from work trips and it's been much the same, where I've sent my better half away for a night for the same reason. She's done X, and then I've gone, well, geez, she's done that, and she's done that all by herself. She needs to chop out and go and, have a bit of time for herself. So good on you, Matthew, for recognizing that. And for just dumping the luggage and sending Kim into another air-conditioned room in the 35-degree house.
Just all around nice guy, mate. That's just how I roll.
What about you, Ryan? Do you have any sort of tips or tricks around avoiding conflict, or maybe even dealing with it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we actually this weekend, I went to my first baby shower, which wasn't really a baby shower. It was like a party. Now, I'm told that this isn't how baby showers are, but it was basically a party where there was a table. We all put a present there, and then we pretty much just ate food and socialized. So I like that idea for a future baby shower.
Now, can I just jump in here? This is the decision trees for baby showers. Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was good.
It wasn't a baby shower then.
That's what everyone said when I went to work. What did you do this weekend? I went to a baby shower and everyone's like, ooh. I was like, no, it was great. got to catch up with them, just chilled out. And
Right.
they're like, no, that doesn't count. That's just a way for them to get presents.
Yeah, exactly. So in around 12 months' time, you'll probably be invited to the first birthday party, and the decision tree in advance will be, do you have a kid? And the answer is no. First birthday will be boring and just painful. If you have a kid, it's slightly more palatable. But sorry to jump in there. I'm just giving you some future decision trees for your good self.
Fantastic. Well, maybe that will make my avoiding conflict that much easier. But yeah, in terms of conflict, I can think of one probably head-on conflict that, and when I say head-on, it's like built up over about a year. But I remember like in the early days of starting a business with a business partner, and everything was going well for about the first year. And then the second year, it wasn't going as well. And they sort of say, like, when you start a business with somebody, that you're going to end up spending a lot of time with them, sometimes more than what you would do with your spouse or significant other, or you're basically, marrying somebody and building a baby, i.e. business. And I can remember probably, and I'm going back a few years ago, so I really got to think about it. And we've spoken about it since, and we're all good now. But we look back on that time and went, for about 6 months, we were about to kill each other. Like, legitimately couldn't care whether the business fell under. Every time I got a text or a call from the guy, I was like, I won't swear there, but it was like, I'm going to kill you. And we couldn't really work out what it was. And it was actually because we were avoiding conflict. So we were avoiding the conflict and just letting everything foster up. I think it was like the tiniest thing that happened one day. We were in the office and we just sort of blew up at each other, thankfully, like very civilly. And it was probably actually the best thing that happened. So 3.5 years later, the business is still going. We're both directors, and just, it was all because I think, like, going back on it, and I guess it's like most things that you try and dodge, they all start off as little things, and the little things turn into really big things. Especially with Christmas coming around and family and all the avoiding conflicts with that can come. But yeah, it was like a really little thing. We can't even remember what it was, but it was really that neither of us were stepping in each other's shoes. So for a week, we just swapped roles, and rather than actually killing each other and winding up being very, very bad, we ended up being okay. But then another, I guess, mentor of mine or business colleague, he would always tell me about his DTM list, which stands for dead to me. A number of people had gotten on this list, and thankfully, I'm not on the list. We're not together with business anymore. We sort of sold the business, but somebody shafted us with a business deal in Adelaide and did like a real dodgy, went behind our back and everything like that. And my way of dealing with that one, or creating an approach of whether to avoid this or whether to just go head on, was, we sort of emailed and we got to the bottom of it, and we spoke to him and that. And my final response was, you're the first person to make my DTM list. And then I think I said some expletives, and I've never spoken to the person since. So there's kind of
You have a very serious DTM list. Like, I've had Matt on my DTM list like 2 or 3 times in my life. So, like, yeah, at least you stick to yours.
Oh no, this is definitely stuck there. So it's a small list, but when you're on there, it's very hard to get off.
Exclusive.
And yet I still get a Christmas card every year.
Yeah, I love you, Matthew. You know I love you. I guess it's not that much of a unique sort of way of dealing with conflict now. And I used to be quite bad at dealing with conflict. I used to bottle that up and maybe explode every now and again, especially when you go through, I'm talking about the work environment, going through non-work stress, and then kind of not taking it out on people, but just, that's the obvious place where something goes wrong at work and I'd fly off the handle. I don't do anything like that anymore. I don't really lose the plot at work. But now I just kind of work on the basis, and this is with the spouse or with anyone else, I have a theory of who gives more of a fuck. If I have something which I give more of a fuck about, then I'll generally get my way. If my spouse has something she wants to give more of a fuck about, she'll get her way. So it just comes down to who cares more about a particular topic or a particular decision. They obviously care much more about it. If they weren't to get their way, it will cause more of an issue. So the other one will generally go, okay, it's on you. Like, if that's the decision, you really care about this, and that's the decision you want to make, then by all means, we'll do it your way. And that could be something as simple as what's for dinner, although it's never what's for dinner, but it's more about the serious issues in life. It seems to work quite well. Like it just puts the onus back on, okay, if you really, really care about something, I'm not going to stand in your way.
Yeah, I have heard you speak about that before, and I have actually stolen that one before, because it's a good bit of a seesaw that you weigh up and you go, actually, if it doesn't play out for that person, they're going to hate this and resent it much more than I'm really going to care about it. So I'll let that one go to the keeper. But on the flip side, you sort of know, no, actually, I really care about this a lot more, so I'm going to push a bit harder on this one.
Yeah, you still talk about the topic and the issue at hand, but then ultimately, like if you can't reach a mutually agreed upon decision, then we'll just default to who really cares about it more. And we're going through the process now. Our little fella's getting towards 3, so we're looking at sort of schools and what that looks like. And my spouse cares about that. When I say cares about it, has a stronger opinion on it than me. I have an opinion. Her opinion is probably stronger than mine. So ultimately, we'll probably go with what she really wants because she has a stronger opinion on it than me.
That's a really good way of doing it, Kane. You both get your opinions across, and yeah, ultimately one person gets their way rather than either of you not getting your own way. So one of you is happy at least, and you might win out on one topic, and you might lose out on another topic. But at the end of the day, yeah, you're getting, one of you is getting, what you believe in ultimately, and it might come around for the second person later.
Yeah, it's one of those things where consensus on some topics is just almost impossible. So you just try to make the best of whatever that decision can be. And yeah, the way we found is that, whoever kind of cares about that topic more, if we can't reach that consensus, yeah, they get to own that decision. And if it doesn't work, it's not like the other person goes, I was on the other side, I didn't want that all along, ha ha ha. It's just, well, okay, you cared about that, it didn't work out, how do we fix it?
I'm a bit on the sort of other spectrum. I don't necessarily try to avoid conflict, but I don't get myself into conflict situations, I guess. And I think that's been how it's been most of my life. Like I try to think back now, while we're having this conversation about any, friends or, work relationships that have been burned or anything like that. And I can't really think of too many off the top of my list. Kane, you'll remember, I was a generally nice guy all through my working career with you. I never really had any run-ins or anything like that. Yeah, so generally, I mean, the only real arguments I have in my life, and they're very few and far between, are probably with the spouse. But again, and they don't probably get handled the best way on my side of the table. I tend to probably bottle things up a little bit more than I should. And then whenever we have an argument, I sort of will bring something up to counteract a point maybe the wife's trying to get across, which I know is not the way to do things, and I don't recommend that at all. But I'm slowly trying to get better and, voicing some more opinions. And, even if I'm getting asked an opinion as well, I'll try and, I'll really assess it and say, well, this is more up to you. It's like you do and your wife, Kane.
Oh, yeah. No one goes along and everything's peachy keen all the time. Like there's always issues popping up. You just have to work through them.
Yeah, and that's all you can do. Yeah, try and work through them, and that's try and get it out unscathed. But I think knowing as well, from a guy's point of view, sensing any triggers or knowing the limits of your better half, or even friends or colleagues. In my situation, there's mild, hot, super hot, and then melting, and knowing at what point you're at within that sort of range, and if you can bring it back or tail it down, it is handy. So just thinking of it as the Nando's range of basting.
That's a good point, though. Guys traditionally won't kind of talk about things which they might be thinking, but we'll bring up things from like 4 or 5 months ago or 6 months ago, which would kind of said in passing. Like we'll kind of store stuff up, and then when something does come up, we'll just bring all sorts of random stuff in there, which I'm sure the girls in our lives will go, "What are you talking about? It's got nothing to do with what we're talking about now."
Yeah, and you can see it on the face as well. The eyes roll, and it's like, where has that even come from? And I, whenever I throw that in, it's really only to try and get a leg up in the argument, which I'm, always mostly losing anyway.
Like you're definitely stretching when you get to that, but I think, I can think of many people, myself included, who would be guilty of that one. Is it better with things or is it sort of case by case basis that it is good to approach them head on, or do you guys think that it's better to pretty much maybe avoid them, or it's better to kind of just try and get a neutral thing, or is there even sort of like a standard that you think about, or is it very much like depends what it is, depends? Like, I got a work thing at the moment where I'm definitely going very hard on it because they are trying to screw us significantly in a deal. But with stuff like that might be home sort of things or whatnot, I'd probably be much more inclined to go use a bit of like the cane method, we'll call it. Like, okay, at the end of the day, who cares about this a bit more, or really what are the ramifications of spending another night, over there, or doing this as a holiday, or sucking that event up because you don't really want to go, but you kind of should. Yeah, what do you guys think? Is it better to hit things head on, or is it better to scurry away, or
Well, I like that you called it the cane method because it is more effective than the rhythm method. But for me, I just kind of work on the basis that I take 2 or 3 deep breaths or a night before I kind of deal with things, especially if it's really pent up. I used to probably shoot off emails and, not tweets so much, but social media, I'll be like, oh, comment on that because that guy's, and then I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'll take a deep breath, and then it doesn't matter anymore. So if in the next day, or 10 or 15 minutes later, it's still kind of burning, then I'm more likely to kind of tackle the issue, not head on, but tackle the issue, but take a couple of deep breaths. And if, whatever's causing me an issue will go away, then yeah, I'm okay.
I think that's good too, Cam, because you get more clarity as well by stepping away and, like you said, 3 deep breaths, or even leave it for a night. I'm sure many of office blow-ups have occurred because of, people's reaction times to things that, straight off the cuff rather than having to actually think about it. But getting back to what you said, Ryan, about hitting head on or sort of avoiding, I think it just depends on the topic. Like, I think I was best to avoid the stuff from the weekend. But if it's a topic, that's plays on you day in and day out, I think that kind of stuff needs to be head on rather than avoided, just because it'll just fester and double in size, and the blowout will be a lot more bigger than it probably needed to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it, like, thinking back on times where I've just absolutely lost it, it's been those things that has, after a day or two, they're still sitting there, and you choose not to tackle it head on, but you're still thinking about it, and like 2-3 weeks later, something will come up, and just everything from the build up of a couple of weeks, and then you just absolutely lose it, and people look at you and go, where did that completely come from? So yeah, I'd probably be of the same opinion that if you're still thinking about it a day or two later, it's usually a good thing to probably have an uncomfortable conversation rather than blowing it up. But like, I wonder, 20, 40, 50 years ago, because we're sort of talking about the changes of the modern man, do you think that happened then? Do you think we have less blow-ups now because guys do talk a bit more, or do you think it's like still a really big problem that guys just bottle stuff down and we do just fly off the handle?
That's an interesting one. The cross-generational thing is really interesting. I don't really recall really seeing my parents kind of have any sort of heated arguments, and it may have been that they had them, away from us kids, but I don't really recall them having sort of any arguments as such. It was just kind of more a consensus-based thing. But I guess historically, it's, the guy's decision is the right decision, is how it's been, which is just bullshit. But I think over the last, all this stuff should be by consensus, and we're all generally mature adults, and we can discuss things. And if you're kind of self-aware and aware of the other person, then you can get to a decision and deal with issues in a pretty mature sort of way. If you've got a sort of level of immaturity, and I certainly did back 10 years ago, not understanding anything about me or any maybe other people as well, you deal with things in a way which is kind of like a kid, like you're in a schoolyard. It's like, nah. So I think it's changed a lot in the last generation.
What about with Christmas just around the corner, boys? We're seeing family possibly, for the first time for a few months. There'll be a couple of beers flowing. Are you guys and your families, sort of on the level, or is there always, annual arguments held at these kind of events? Or is Christmas a time you like to, do you dread Christmas dinners, or you embrace them?
Loaded question. It's a good one. Very good question. So this year we're up your way, Maddie. We're up to sunny Brisbane. So we have TK's family this year who are Queensland based, mine are Perth. So Christmas we do a whole thing of 1 year we'll go to one family, the next year we'll do the next, and then the third year we take as our own. So we kind of take a break. And actually, in terms of an avoidance of conflict strategy, we put that in place to pretty much avoid the build up of just getting pissed off by going every year we need to spend copious amounts of money to fly to one to the other, and a bit of resentment from there. So I guess that's a bit of an avoidance strategy there. So we're up to Queensland this year. For me, it's great because I kind of go, cool, hanging out with the in-laws, and I'll go up there and drink coffee during the day, overlooking the water, and then swap to beer or wine afterwards and have a great time. For TK, I think like any family, when you don't see them for a while or whatnot, it can be a bit intense. So sometimes it's a bit draining. And then I would say that, yeah, the reverse happens when we go Perth way. More so, I think, when it goes to extended family. So when you start to really go out to that extended family where you haven't seen for a long while, and there's some, whether there's divorces or some conflict or challenges between people that you're not necessarily aware, which I know sometimes with my extended family can be a case, but I'm sort of lucky enough, and again, probably another avoidance strategy, I'm sort of far away enough to not get caught up in a lot of that stuff. So usually when I go, Christmas is a fun time and I just get to catch up with people, but you can sometimes just feel the underlying tension. And yeah, I'm not sure what it'll be like when we have kids and get much more Christmas family orientated then. And I guess we'll see what happens. But for now, it's still a pretty fun and happy time.
Oh, it'll get worse. It will get much, much worse.
Yeah, I can't wait for the no, now we're all going to fly to you, and I'm just going to be like, I really don't want to host Christmas, but then it'll be like, oh, but we can't fly to one and then not the other because this will be problematic. So it's going to be fun.
The hardest part for us is actually the organisation part of who's doing what and when, and trying to tie it in with, my sister has 2 young girls and we've got the little fella. So just trying to tie in a time and a day and those sort of things is the hardest part. When we're all there, it's really great. Like, we don't really have any conflict in between family members on that side of the family. But yeah, when we all get together, it's really good. It's just that organisation part and, almost the family politics of, where and who and what and all that stuff, which is so draining when it doesn't need to be so hard. How about you, Matthew?
Yeah, we're okay with my family. So we're flying down to Melbourne for Christmas this year. My sister's just built a house, so she wants a first Christmas there. But there might be something in what you said earlier, Ryan, with your extended family over in Perth and the politics with family who see each other more all the time throughout the year. When it gets to the Christmas and, there's that much politics and build up from the year, that maybe it sort of blows out. Whereas I think with my family, at least, because we don't see each other very much through the year because we're in different states, that one time we sort of do come together, we just sort of all get along, which is nice, I guess. And then we just go our separate ways again for 6 or so months. But yeah, so yeah, really looking forward to Christmas this year.
The other part of that is people build it up that Christmas is this really big thing. But if you see or you talk to your family throughout the year, then it shouldn't be any bigger or any smaller than any other catch up, to be honest. Like, it's just catching up with people, which is the nice part. The Christmas thing is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think the build up can really play into something because people can get really, really stressed about it. So that when, if you do happen to say, oh, well, actually, no, work's this, so I'm not going to fly in when I thought it was, or yeah, actually for the little kid, we're going to have a nap, so we're actually going to come in the later evening, and they build up this big lunch, and so you've kind of then ruined that lunch. And I think just because of the build up and the pressure that people can put Christmas on and trying to have, this perfect situation and day, that can just cause tension in itself, where if everything doesn't go to the wire, then the tiny little things blow people up, and then you have a few drinks and that sort of stuff. So I don't know, I've tried to downplay Christmas as just sort of a fun time to get a present and see some people and not take it too seriously. But I know there's plenty of other people there that do that differently, and that's really good. And there's a part of me that does wish that I was a bit more involved in it.
I've been sneaking little texts to my sister every couple of days about the catering, just saying what I want, what's expected. Just take the piss.
Another avoidance strategy there. Just pre-plan and you'll be completely fine.
Speaking of Christmas and all things wrapping, that about wraps it up for this week on Daddy Eats Last. Do subscribe to Daddy Eats Last on iTunes, and thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week for another episode, or should I say serving, of Daddy Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.